Get that filthy creature away from the silver before he stains it. Lady Verity Blackmere's voice rang above the violins, clean and hard as a knife drawn across glass. The ballroom fell silent for one astonished breath. Then came the laughter. It began near the card tables, where two young gentlemen hid their smiles behind white gloves. It spread toward the supper alcove, where ladies in Paris silk turned their painted faces toward the man kneeling beside the eastern doors. Even the footmen looked down quickly, though several of their mouths had already begun to twitch. The beggar had entered on the heels of a coal porter, bent beneath a torn brown coat darkened by sleet. Mud clung to his boots. His beard was streaked with grey. One sleeve hung loose where the seam had split, and his left hand trembled as though cold had entered the bone. A silver tray had fallen beside him. 3 crystal glasses lay broken across the polished floor. Lady Verity raised one gloved finger. "You there, Thomas? Drag him through the servants' passage, and see that he is searched before he goes. Men like that do not approach a house such as Ravenshade without intending theft." The head footman stepped forward. So did Evelyn Ashcombe. She had been standing near the wall among the unmarried relations, dressed in a gown that had belonged to her late mother and had been altered twice to disguise its age. At 26, she had already learned how society placed a woman like her, too poor to command attention, too well-born to be employed without shame, too old, according to Verity, to inspire any sensible proposal. Yet when Thomas seized the beggar's shoulder, Evelyn crossed the floor. "Release him." A hush moved through the room. Lady Verity's mouth tightened. "Evelyn, do not make yourself ridiculous. He has done nothing. He has broken 3 glasses. The tray was knocked from the servant's hands," Evelyn said. "I saw it." A young baronet near the musicians gave a soft laugh. "How fortunate that Miss Ashcombe has appointed herself magistrate of spilled wine." More laughter followed. Evelyn felt it strike her face like sleet. She did not turn toward it. Thomas still held the beggar. "Release him," she repeated. The footman looked toward Lady Verity. That glance told Evelyn everything. Ravenshade had belonged to Evelyn's father, but within its walls her word now carried less weight than that of a hired man waiting for another woman's permission. Lady Verity descended the shallow steps beneath the chandelier. Pearls rested at her throat. Black velvet covered her narrow frame. She had worn mourning for Sir Cedric Ashcombe for less than 6 months before replacing grief with authority, and now she ruled his estate with the confidence of someone who believed possession and ownership were the same thing. "You embarrass this family for the sake of a vagrant," she said. "No," Evelyn answered. "I prevent this family from embarrassing itself." The room went still again, not from sympathy, from delight. The guests sensed blood. Lady Verity's cheeks hardened beneath their powder. She moved close enough for Evelyn to smell rosewater and wintergreen. "You have mistaken indulgence for rank. You live here because I permit it. You eat because I order a place set. You wear your mother's dead fashions because I have been charitable enough not to send you where useless women usually go." Evelyn heard someone gasp. Then the baronet laughed once more. Lady Verity did not look away. "Apologize to our guests," she said, "and I may forget this little performance." Evelyn glanced at the beggar. His face remained lowered, but beneath the wet hair she saw that his eyes were open and steady. They were not pleading eyes. They watched. "No," she said. The word was quiet. It crossed the ballroom more sharply than a shout. Lady Verity lifted her hand. For one instant Evelyn thought she meant to strike her. Instead, Verity pointed toward the same eastern doors through which the beggar had entered. "Then you may accompany him." A murmur passed through the guests. Evelyn stared at her. "Tonight? Tonight, through the servants' passage, since you have chosen the servants' side." Thomas hesitated. Lady Verity turned on him. "Must I give every order twice?" The head footman released the beggar and moved toward Evelyn. She stepped back before he could touch her. "I will walk." A few people laughed again, though less easily now. The beggar rose. He did so slowly at first, one hand pressed against the floor, then his shoulders straightened beneath the torn coat. For a fleeting moment, the stoop vanished, and Evelyn saw the outline of a tall man trained to stand before others without fear. Lady Verity saw nothing. Have them both removed." The beggar looked at Evelyn. "You should not have done that, miss." His voice was low, educated, and strangely calm. "Perhaps not," she replied, "but they should not have done this." Something changed in his expression. Not gratitude. Recognition. Thomas opened the eastern door. Cold air swept across the ballroom, stirring candle flames and lifting the edge of Evelyn's old silk skirt. Behind her, the violins resumed. The laughter did not. And no one in that glittering room knew that the man they had mocked carried a secret powerful enough to bend the pride of Ravenshade and shake every titled family beneath its roof. Before we return to the beginning, tell us where you are listening from tonight. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you do not miss the moment hidden truth finally steps into the light. And if these stories bring meaning to your evenings, consider supporting the channel. Now let us go back to the winter, when Evelyn first understood how easily a daughter could become a guest in her own home. 3 months before the ball, Sir Cedric Ashcombe had been buried beneath a sky the colour of lead. The rain fell without pause. It soaked the black feathers on the horses, gathered along the church roof, and ran from the umbrellas of neighbours who had come to honour a man they had, praised in public and feared in private. Evelyn stood beside her father's grave, with her hands folded beneath a thin pair of gloves. Lady Verity stood 1 pace ahead. That single pace had explained the new order before any solicitor arrived to speak of papers. Sir Cedric had married Verity 8 years after Evelyn's mother died. He had wanted a son. Everyone knew it, though no one had said it in Evelyn's hearing until Verity entered the house. "A man must consider the name," Verity had once observed over breakfast. Sir Cedric had lowered his eyes to his plate. Evelyn had been 17. She remembered the meal more clearly than the words. Toast cooling on silver racks, marmalade in a cut glass dish, ham beneath a polished cover, a boiled egg untouched before her father. Verity's knife moving carefully through bread while she discussed the future of the estate as if Evelyn were a chair that might be removed when the room was rearranged. No son had come. 2 pregnancies ended before the household was permitted to speak of them. After the second, Verity's grief became anger, and her anger required an object. Evelyn served. Not because Sir Cedric hated his daughter. That would have been simpler. He loved her in the weak, private manner of men who offered tenderness when no courage was required. He brought her books from London. He praised her figures when she corrected an estate account. He asked her to read letters aloud beside the library fire. But at dinner, when Verity mocked Evelyn's plain gowns, he remained silent. When Verity dismissed Evelyn's companion and said the expense was unnecessary, he remained silent. When invitations began to arrive addressed to Sir Cedric and Lady Verity alone, he remained silent. His love was real. It was not protection. At the funeral, Evelyn discovered the difference. The solicitor came 2 days later. Mr. Harcourt was a narrow man with damp cuffs and a habit of pressing his lips together before speaking. He met Lady Verity in Sir Cedric's locked library. Evelyn was not invited. She waited in the morning room until the fire sank low and the clock on the mantel struck 4. At last, Mr. Harcourt entered. Lady Verity followed. Her mourning veil had been lifted. Her eyes were dry. Mr. Harcourt cleared his throat. "Miss Ashcombe, certain arrangements remain unsettled. Until the relevant documents are located and reviewed, Lady Verity will administer the household and estate expenditures." "Relevant documents?" "Your father referred in correspondence to a settlement concerning you." Lady Verity crossed the room. "A correspondence no one appears able to find." Mr. Harcourt looked uncomfortable. "There may also have been a later instruction placed among Sir Cedric's private papers." "May have been," Verity repeated. "My husband was fevered during his final days. He spoke of many things. He was clear when he sent for me," Mr. Harcourt said. "Yet you did not arrive before his death." The solicitor's face coloured. The railway was delayed. Then we are left with uncertainty. Evelyn watched them. Not the words, the pauses. Mr. Harcourt was afraid of offending Verity, but he was more afraid of something else. "Where are my father's private papers?" Evelyn asked. Lady Verity answered before the solicitor could. "Safe." "May I see them?" "No." It was the first open refusal. The room seemed smaller after it. Evelyn turned to Mr. Harcourt. "Am I legally forbidden?" He adjusted his cuffs. "The library and its contents are presently under Lady Verity's authority as acting mistress of Ravenshade." That was not an answer. It was the answer men gave when truth required bravery. Lady Verity dismissed him with tea he did not drink. After he left, she approached Evelyn near the window. "You must understand your position. I am trying to. Then try without insolence. Ravenshade is burdened with debt. Your father concealed more than sentiment from us." Evelyn knew the estate accounts. She had copied figures for Sir Cedric during the last 2 winters. Rents had fallen in the northern farms, but there had been no ruin. Timber had been sold. A mortgage had been reduced. Income from the London properties remained sound. What debt? The sort no unmarried daughter needs to discuss. I kept his ledgers. You copied columns placed before you. I balanced them. Lady Verity's expression sharpened. That will no longer be necessary. For the first time in her life, Evelyn felt fear settle not in her chest but in her mind. It was cold, precise, useful. Lady Verity was not merely taking control, she was preventing comparison. That evening, Evelyn went below stairs. The kitchen was the warmest room in Ravenshade. Copper pots hung above the long table. Steam clouded the windows. A rabbit pie rested near the range, while currant buns cooled beneath a cloth and 2 jars of preserved plums stood open beside the housekeeper's keys. Conversation stopped when Evelyn entered. Mrs. Finch, the cook, wiped her hands on her apron. "Miss Evelyn, is something required?" "Only a moment." The scullery maid stared at the floor. The second footman suddenly found a tray in urgent need of polishing. Evelyn understood. In great houses, servants heard truth early and repeated it carefully. They also knew when a woman's fall had begun before the woman herself did. "Where is Mr. Bell?" she asked. The old butler had served Ravenshade since before her birth. Mrs. Finch looked toward the passage. "Dismissed this morning." Evelyn's heart tightened. For what reason? Lady Verity said he had taken wine. Mr. Bell never took wine. Mrs. Finch's mouth became a thin line. "No, miss. Who now carries the library keys?" No one answered. Then the smallest kitchen maid, a child of perhaps 14 called Nell, whispered before fear could stop her. "Mr. Grafton does." Mrs. Finch turned. "Nell." The girl went pale. Mr. Grafton was Lady Verity's cousin. He had arrived for the funeral and remained without explanation, occupying a guest room near the western stairs. He wore expensive boots, owed money at cards, and smiled whenever household expenses were discussed. Evelyn thanked the girl. As she turned to go, Mrs. Finch spoke. "Miss Evelyn." Evelyn looked back. The cook's broad face had softened. Mr. Bell did not leave empty-handed. "What do you mean?" Mrs. Finch glanced at the other servants. He carried an old dispatch box, black leather, brass corners. Did Lady Verity see it? I cannot say, but Mrs. Finch could say. Her eyes revealed it. She had chosen not to. For the first time in her life, Evelyn understood that loyalty did not always bow. Sometimes it hid in kitchens, wrapped truth in cloth, and sent it out by the rear gate before authority knew it had moved. That night, Evelyn wrote to Mr. Bell. The letter was never answered. A week later, she wrote again. That letter vanished too. She discovered how, by accident, the corridor outside Lady Verity's sitting room had a warped panel near the window. Evelyn had paused there when she heard paper tearing beyond the half-open door. Mr. Grafton stood by the fire. Lady Verity held a letter. Evelyn recognized her own hand. "You should have let it go," Grafton said. "The old fool may already suspect." "Suspect what?" That Cedric's final ledger was not misplaced. Lady Verity fed half the letter into the flames. Suspecting is not proving. And the settlement? Still missing. You told Harcourt there was none. I told him nothing he could use. The paper blackened between her fingers. Grafton lowered his voice. The girl knows the accounts. The girl knows addition. That is not power. Evelyn stood without breathing. The corridor felt colder than the graveyard. Not because she had learned Lady Verity lied, because Verity had expected to lie without consequence. Then Grafton said a name. "Harcourt believes the Duke may." Lady Verity crossed the room and shut the door. The rest disappeared. Evelyn remained by the warped panel, staring at the dark wood. The Duke. Which Duke? Why had her father's solicitor mentioned no Duke? The next morning, she began to behave as though she had heard nothing. She attended breakfast. She mended linen in the small parlour. She thanked Lady Verity for permission to use the carriage when she visited the village church. But she did not go to church. She went to the inn beyond the market square. The village lay under freezing rain. Carts pressed brown tracks into the road. Traders called beneath patched awnings. A woman sold onions beside baskets of turnips. A blacksmith's hammer struck through the wet air. Evelyn kept her veil low and entered the White Hart through the side door. Mr. Bell was waiting in a private room. He seemed smaller without his black coat and silver household chain. His white hair had not been combed. One hand rested upon a black dispatch box with brass corners. Evelyn stopped. "Mrs. Finch told me." "Then Mrs. Finch has risked her place." "So have you." Mr. Bell gave a tired smile. "At my age, miss, place is merely a room one has grown accustomed to leaving." It was one of the 2 times that winter Evelyn nearly laughed. She sat opposite him. "Did my father give you that box?" 3 nights before he died." "Why?" he said. Lady Verity was not to have it. Mr. Bell turned the key. Inside lay no fortune. No jewels, no sealed royal message, only papers, rent rolls, receipts, letters tied with faded cord, a small memorandum in Sir Cedric's hand, and beneath them, a ledger bound in green leather. Evelyn reached for it. Mr. Bell covered the book with his palm. "Not here. I must see it. You must live long enough to use what you see." She looked at him. He lowered his voice. Sir Cedric feared more than debt. He discovered payments from the estate to accounts he had never authorized. Some bore Mr. Grafton's name. Others passed through men in London. Your father believed Lady Verity intended to declare Ravenshade insolvent, force the sale of certain properties, and purchase them through another party. Evelyn felt the room contract around her. "Why?" "Control," Mr. Bell said. "Money. Freedom from every promise made before she came here. Including the settlement for me. Including that." Evelyn touched the edge of the box. "And the Duke?" Mr. Bell's eyes lifted sharply. "What Duke?" "I heard Grafton mention one." The old butler withdrew his hand from the ledger. "Then they know he may return." "Who?" Before Mr. Bell could answer, hoofbeats sounded in the yard. Not one horse, several. He closed the box at once. Evelyn moved toward the window. Through the rain-blurred glass, she saw Mr. Grafton dismount beneath the inn sign. 2 Ravenshade grooms followed him. Mr. Bell seized the dispatch box. "There is another stair." "Why is he here?" "Because your absence has been noticed." The innkeeper appeared at the door, pale and breathless. "Miss Ashcombe, they are asking for you below." Mr. Bell pushed open a narrow panel beside the hearth. "Go, not without the ledger." He tore one folded sheet from beneath the green cover and pressed it into her hand. "Hide this. Read it only when you are alone." The pounding on the stairs began. Evelyn slipped through the panel into darkness. Behind her, Mr. Bell shut it. She descended a cramped staircase that smelled of soot and damp plaster. At the bottom, a door opened into the stable passage. Rain struck her face. She crossed behind a hay cart and reached the market road without being seen. Only then did she feel the paper inside her glove. She did not return to Ravenshade until dusk. Lady Verity waited in the entrance hall. No fire burned there. The marble beneath Evelyn's wet shoes felt like ice. "Where have you been?" "At the village." "Doing what?" "Walking." "In this weather?" "I found it clarifying." Lady Verity studied her. Mr. Grafton entered from the drawing-room. Mud marked his boots. His expression told Evelyn that Mr. Bell had escaped or refused to speak. Verity descended 1 stair. "You will not leave the grounds again without permission." Evelyn removed her gloves slowly. "Am I a prisoner? Do not be theatrical." "That means yes." Lady Verity's voice became soft. "It means you have mistaken patience for weakness." "No," Evelyn said. "I think I mistook silence for innocence." Mr. Grafton moved forward. "What is that supposed to mean?" Evelyn looked at him. "Nothing yet." For the first time in her life, She saw uncertainty enter his face. It lasted only a second, but it was enough. That night, Evelyn locked her bedroom door and unfolded the stolen sheet beside a single candle. It was not a page of figures. It was a letter from her father. The first lines were addressed to a man whose name she had never seen, His Grace, the Duke of Greyhaven. Evelyn read on. By the final paragraph, her hands had begun to tremble. Sir Cedric had not merely asked the Duke for advice. He had entrusted him with oversight of Evelyn's settlement and warned that, should anything happen to him, Ravenshade itself might become evidence of fraud. At the bottom, in hurried ink, her father had added one final sentence. The man will come in disguise, for Verity must not know whom she is being judged by. A floorboard creaked outside her room. The handle turned once, then again, and Evelyn understood that someone already knew she had taken more than a walk. Da Viet Quang 2, 438ths. 0, 12, 2. The handle stopped moving. Evelyn held the letter above the candle flame, not close enough to burn it, close enough to make whoever stood outside fear that she might. Lady Verity's voice came through the door. You have begun locking rooms that do not belong to you. Evelyn folded the letter and slid it beneath the mattress. I was dressing. At this hour, I did not know my habits required permission. The latch shifted again, opened the door. Evelyn crossed to the washstand. She poured cold water into the basin and rubbed it across her cheeks and throat until her skin shone with dampness. Then she opened the door. Lady Verity stood outside with Mr. Grafton behind her. Verity studied Evelyn's wet face. You look fevered. I am cold. Everyone is cold in winter. Not everyone sleeps in the north wing without a fire. Grafton smiled. Perhaps poverty has sharpened your imagination. Lady Verity entered without invitation. She searched the desk, opened the sewing box, and lifted the lid of Evelyn's small traveling chest. What are you looking for? Evelyn asked. Evidence of disobedience. Is disobedience an object now? In your hands? Almost certainly. Grafton moved toward the wardrobe. Evelyn stepped between him and the doors. You will not touch my clothes. He raised his brows. They are hardly worth stealing. Then you have no reason to search them. His smile vanished. For one instant she saw what lay beneath his easy manners. Not irritation, but hatred. He feared being exposed by a woman he considered powerless. Lady Verity approached the bed. Evelyn's heart struck once. The letter lay beneath the mattress near the headboard. Only wool and ticking concealed it. Verity pressed a hand upon the coverlet. The room seemed to hold its breath. Footsteps sounded in the corridor. A maid appeared at the door. My lady, Mr. Harcourt has arrived. At this hour? He says it concerns Sir Cedric's estate. Lady Verity withdrew her hand. Tell him I shall receive him in the library. The maid curtsied. Verity looked at Evelyn. You will remain here. Am I ill or imprisoned? Whichever keeps you quiet. When they had gone, Evelyn waited until their footsteps faded. She took the letter from beneath the mattress and read the final lines again. The man will come in disguise, for Verity must not know whom she is being judged by. A duke travelling as a common man sounded absurd. Yet her father had written it while dying. Mr. Bell had known someone powerful might return. Lady Verity and Grafton had spoken of a duke as though his arrival threatened them. Evelyn folded the letter into the lining of her old travelling cloak and sewed the opening shut. For the first time in her life, needlework felt like conspiracy. Below, a door slammed. Voices rose in the library. Evelyn stepped into the corridor. Lady Verity had ordered her to remain in her room. She had not posted a guard. She descended the back stairs and entered the narrow coal passage opposite the library. Its door stood slightly open. Through the gap, she saw the edge of Sir Cedric's desk and Mr. Harcourt's hands resting upon it. Lady Verity stood beyond him. Grafton leaned against the mantel. There is no justification for delaying the inventory further, Mr. Harcourt said. There is every justification, Verity replied. My husband's affairs were disordered. His affairs were precise. You knew him as a client. I knew him as a husband. Then you know he maintained separate instructions concerning his daughter. Evelyn pressed closer to the door. And have you found them? Verity asked. No. Then we are discussing a ghost. We are discussing an obligation. Grafton laughed softly. Careful, Harcourt. You sound almost brave. The library fell silent. Mr. Harcourt did not leave. Sir Cedric placed certain properties beyond your personal control, he said. Which properties? The London houses. Evelyn closed her eyes. Her father had owned 3 houses in Bloomsbury. Their rents were modest beside the income from Ravenshade, but steady. Those houses carry debt, Verity said. Not according to the accounts I reviewed last spring. Accounts change. Then show me the current ledgers. Grafton moved from the mantel. You forget yourself. No, I remember precisely who I am. I am the solicitor who will be blamed when trustees and creditors discover that estate records vanished beneath my observation. No one will discover anything, Verity said. The quietness of the sentence made it worse. A chair scraped. I shall return tomorrow with a clerk and begin the inventory, Mr. Harcourt said. You will do no such thing. I shall. Grafton stepped nearer. A railway platform is a dangerous place in winter. The room went still. Evelyn felt cold move down her spine. Was that a threat? Mr. Harcourt asked. An ill-chosen joke, Verity said. I do not think it was. Then leave before your imagination becomes troublesome. Footsteps approached the door. Evelyn slipped deeper into the cold passage and drew it nearly shut. Mr. Harcourt emerged carrying his hat. His face was pale. He stopped beneath the gas lamp and glanced toward the narrow door. For one breath, Evelyn thought he had seen her. Then he walked away. She waited. Inside the library, Grafton spoke. You should let me deal with him. You have dealt with too much already, Verity replied. He knows about the London houses. He suspects. He will return with a clerk. Then he must be given something to find. A false ledger? A useful ledger. And the girl? Evelyn held her breath. Lady Verity's voice softened. The Ashcombe cousins arrive tomorrow. By the end of the week, every guest at Ravenshade will believe she has become unstable with grief. Grafton sounded amused. She does have a talent for defiance. Defiance in a man is strength. In an unmarried woman, it is evidence. They laughed. Evelyn stepped away from the door. Fear settled in her mind. Cold. Precise. Useful. She returned to her room and opened the chest beneath the window. Inside were her mother's prayer book, 2 silver hairpins, £11, and a packet of letters tied in blue ribbon. £11 would not support her for long. But the London houses might. If her father had protected them for her, she needed access to their rents before Lady Verity produced her useful ledger. The following morning, Ravenshade filled with guests. The Ashcombe cousins arrived first, then Lady Verity's widowed aunt, then 2 neighbours who had ignored Sir Cedric's illness, but came at once when told Evelyn required company. Their concern revealed its purpose before luncheon. You look pale, Mrs. Dalrymple said. She has scarcely slept, Lady Verity replied. I sleep well enough, Evelyn said. Verity smiled sadly. She believes she does. A prepared silence followed. At luncheon, the table shone with silver dishes, carved pheasant, glazed carrots, bread rolls, and orange jelly trembling beneath the chandelier. Evelyn ate slowly. Lady Verity spoke of grief. It unsettles the mind in curious ways. Mrs. Dalrymple nodded. My husband's cousin began hearing bells after her mother died. How distressing, Evelyn said. She later imagined people were hiding letters from her. Grafton lowered his glass. A remarkably specific delusion. Every face turned toward Evelyn. She laid down her fork. Lady Verity reached across the table. My dear, you must not be ashamed. Of what? Of your recent confusion. I am not confused. The women exchanged glances. Lady Verity sighed. Last night, you accused Mr. Grafton of stealing from the estate. I did no such thing. Not in those exact words, perhaps. In no words. Grafton leaned back. You entered my room and searched my desk. Evelyn stared at him. That is false. His smile remained gentle. You see, the cruelty of it became clear. Every denial would serve them. Every protest would become proof. She could not defeat them by speaking louder. So she changed the question. What was taken from your desk? Grafton hesitated. A receipt. For what amount? That is not relevant. To which account was it charged? Lady Verity's expression tightened. Evelyn continued. The Northern farms? Household expenses? Or the London properties? Mrs. Dalrymple looked at Grafton. The widow beside her stopped eating. You have no right to interrogate me, he said. Then I cannot have stolen a receipt whose existence you refuse to explain. For the first time in her life, Evelyn felt the balance of a room shift because of her own restraint. Not victory, only space enough to breathe. Lady Verity lifted her glass. This is precisely what I feared. She turns ordinary conversation into accusation. Evelyn picked up her fork. Then let us speak of something ordinary. The meal continued, but Grafton had been forced to defend himself. Mrs. Dalrymple watched him now with the interest of a woman who preferred scandal to loyalty. After luncheon, Nell followed Evelyn into the portrait gallery. Evelyn stopped. What is it? The girl glanced behind her. They put something in your tea. Evelyn felt the air leave her lungs. Who? Mr. Grafton gave a packet to Thomas. Thomas gave it to Bess. Bess cried after. What did it look like? White powder. Did I drink it? Nell shook her head. Bess spilled the cup before it reached the table. Evelyn remembered the crash before luncheon and Verity's anger toward the servant's door. Where is Bess? Gone. Dismissed? Sent away in the laundry cart. For what reason? They said she stole sugar. A servant had protected her and vanished before anyone above stairs thought to ask why. Where did they send her? I do not know. Think, Nell. The girl twisted her apron. The cart belongs to Mrs. Pike. She takes linen to the washerwomen near the old bridge. Evelyn touched Nell's shoulder. Say nothing more. Not even to Mrs. Finch. But Mrs. Finch is kind. Kindness can be overheard. Nell nodded. Then she held out a scrap of paper. Bess dropped this. 3 numbers had been written in pencil. What do they mean? Nell asked. Evelyn folded the paper into her glove. I do not know yet. That afternoon, Lady Verity refused her permission to walk in the garden. The rain is heavy, she said. Yesterday the weather did not concern you. Yesterday I did not know the extent of your agitation. Grafton stood beside the fire. Miss Ashcombe should rest. Evelyn looked at him. Perhaps Mr. Grafton should explain his receipt. His mouth tightened. Lady Verity rose. Enough. The room fell silent. You will remain indoors until Dr. Pritchard arrives tomorrow. A physician, a family friend. I have never met him. He has experience in disorders of the female temperament. They were moving faster. That night, Evelyn did not drink the tea sent to her room. She poured it into the chamber pot and saw pale sediment clinging to the bottom of the cup. Then she lay in bed and pretended to sleep. Near midnight, her door opened. A candle entered first. Lady Verity followed. Behind her came a heavy man with grey whiskers and a black bag. Dr. Pritchard had supposedly not yet arrived. Grafton stood in the corridor. Evelyn kept her breathing slow. The physician touched her wrist. Has she taken the draught? Enough, I think, Verity said. She will be confused by morning. And if she is not, increase it gradually. Sudden collapse invites questions. Evelyn curled her fingers beneath the blanket until her nails hurt. Dr. Pritchard lowered his voice. I will not sign confinement papers without stronger symptoms. You will sign what is necessary. I agreed to certify exhaustion and grief. You agreed to be compensated. A pause followed. Harcourt returns tomorrow, Grafton said. Dr. Pritchard sighed. This is becoming untidy. Lady Verity looked down at Evelyn. By tomorrow evening, she will accuse someone, faint before witnesses, or attempt to flee. Any of the 3 will be sufficient. For the first time in her life, Evelyn understood that stillness could be a weapon. The candle withdrew. The door closed. She waited 100 breaths before rising. At dawn, Nell brought hot water. Evelyn handed her a sealed note. Give this to the stable boy who visits the old bridge. Tell him it is for Bess. What does it say? That I believe her. Nell hid it beneath her apron. Evelyn took out the scrap bearing the 3 numbers. 14, 8, 3. They were not an amount. They were a reference. Sir Cedric had taught her to mark estate entries by page, line, and column. Page 14. Line 8, Column 3. Bess had seen something in the green ledger. At breakfast, Lady Verity watched Evelyn enter. "How do you feel? Rested? No headache?" "None. No strange dreams? None that would interest you." Dr. Pritchard sat near the window, pretending to have arrived that morning. He rose and bowed. "Miss Ashcombe, I am told you have suffered a difficult season. I am told you have experience in female temperament." "Some experience. Then explain why a woman's refusal to be robbed is considered illness." His eyes shifted toward Verity. Grafton smiled. "There it is." Evelyn turned to the physician. "You may examine me in the presence of Mrs. Finch and Mr. Harcourt." "Mr. Harcourt is not here," Verity said. "He arrived 5 minutes ago," Thomas announced from the doorway. The solicitor stood behind him, damp from the rain. A young clerk, carrying a leather case, waited at his side. Lady Verity did not move. Mr. Harcourt bowed. "I have come to begin the inventory." Dr. Pritchard closed his bag. "Perhaps another time." "No," Evelyn said. Everyone looked at her. "Examine me now. Ask me names, dates, or accounts. Do it before witnesses. That is not how such matters are conducted," Dr. Pritchard replied. "Then how are they conducted? Behind locked doors. After powders are placed in tea." The room fell silent. Lady Verity became pale. Grafton laughed, but the sound failed. "This is absurd." Evelyn turned toward Thomas. "Bring the cup from my room." The head footman froze. "Do not," Lady Verity said. Mr. Harcourt set down his case. "Thomas, bring the cup." For several seconds, the servant stood between two authorities. Then he bowed to Mr. Harcourt. "Yes, sir." Everyone saw the change. A servant had chosen which command to obey. Dr. Pritchard gathered his gloves. "I will not remain for household theatrics." Mr. Harcourt blocked his path. "You will remain until the contents of that cup are examined." "By whom?" "A chemist in London, if necessary." Grafton stepped forward. "You have no power to detain anyone." "No, but a magistrate does." Lady Verity stared at the solicitor. "You brought one?" "Not yet." A little colour returned to her face. Thomas came back holding the cup on a tray. White residue remained at the bottom. Mrs. Dalrymple leaned nearer. "What is that?" No one answered. Dr. Pritchard looked at Lady Verity. That glance was not proof, but fear had its own language. Lady Verity drew herself upright. "My stepdaughter has staged this." Evelyn pointed to the cup. "Then drink it." The whole room fell silent. "If it is harmless, drink it." Lady Verity did not move. Grafton spoke too loudly. "This has gone far enough." He struck the tray from Thomas's hands. The cup shattered. Tea and white sediment spread across the carpet. Mrs. Dalrymple screamed. Mr. Harcourt's clerk dropped to one knee and pressed blotting paper against the stain. "Do not touch it," Mr. Harcourt ordered. Grafton looked down. For one moment, he understood his mistake. He had not destroyed the evidence. He had shown the room that he feared it. Lady Verity recovered first. Everyone out. No one obeyed. The silence became complete. A groom entered from the hall, holding his wet cap. "Beg pardon, my lady. A man is asking for Miss Ashcombe." "Who?" "Mr. Bell." Evelyn's pulse quickened. Lady Verity's expression hardened. "Send him away." The groom swallowed. "He says he has brought something belonging to Sir Cedric." Mr. Harcourt turned toward the hall. "Show him in." Lady Verity stepped between them. "This is my house." "That is one of the questions the inventory may answer," Mr. Harcourt said. Mr. Bell entered carrying the black dispatch box. Rain shone upon his shoulders. He placed the box on the breakfast table. Lady Verity stared at it. Grafton moved toward the door. The clerk closed it. Mr. Bell bowed to Evelyn. "Miss Ashcombe, is Bess safe?" she asked. "She is." Relief nearly weakened her knees. Mr. Bell unlocked the box and removed the green ledger. Evelyn gave him the scrap of paper. Page 14, line 8, column 3. He opened the book. Mr. Harcourt stood beside him. Together they read. The solicitor's face changed first. "What is it?" Evelyn asked. Mr. Harcourt turned the ledger toward her. The entry recorded a transfer from the Bloomsbury rents. £14,000, paid through an intermediary, approved by a signature resembling Sir Cedric's. In the third column, Beside the date, a second notation appeared in smaller ink. V. Blackmere. Lady Verity gripped the back of a chair. That proves nothing. Mr. Bell reached into the dispatch box. No, my lady. He removed a packet of receipts tied with black cord. But these may. Grafton lunged. Thomas caught him before he reached the table. The struggle lasted only a moment, but the packet fell open. One receipt slid across the cloth and stopped beside Evelyn's plate. At the bottom was Grafton's signature. At the top was the name of a London banking house. Beneath the amount appeared a second address, a lodging house in Whitechapel. Mr. Harcourt read it twice. Why would estate money be sent there? Mr. Bell looked at Evelyn. Because someone at that address has been paid for 3 years to conceal a man believed dead. Lady Verity's face emptied of colour. Which man? Evelyn asked. Mr. Bell closed the ledger. The one person who can identify the Duke of Greyhaven. Lady Verity whispered one word. No. Hoofbeats sounded outside. A carriage entered the drive. Then another. Mr. Harcourt went to the window. The lead coach bore no crest, yet 4 mounted men followed it in dark coats. The entrance doors opened below. A man's voice carried through the hall, calm, educated. Familiar. Evelyn knew it before she understood why. It was the voice of the beggar from the ballroom, and he was asking to see Lady Verity Blackmere. Đã viết khoảng 3,18,82. The man who entered the breakfast room did not wear the torn coat Evelyn would later see in the ballroom. He wore a plain, dark travelling coat, wet at the shoulders, and carried no cane, crest, or ornament. His beard was trimmed but still rough enough to obscure the shape of his face. Mud marked his boots. Nothing about him announced rank. Yet Mr. Harcourt bowed. Not deeply enough to expose the man's identity, but lower than a solicitor bowed to an ordinary visitor. Lady Verity saw it. So did Grafton. The stranger looked first at Evelyn, then at the broken cup on the carpet. I appear to have arrived after an interesting breakfast. His voice was the same one she would remember months later, beneath the laughter of the ballroom. Lady Verity recovered her composure. You have entered a private house with... Then let us say I have come on business concerning Sir Cedric Ashcombe. What business? That depends upon what remains of his papers. Mr. Bell placed one hand upon the dispatch box. Lady Verity glanced between them. You know this man? Mr. Bell answered carefully. I know he was expected. The stranger approached the table. He examined the green ledger without touching it, then looked at the stain where the tea had fallen. Dr. Pritchard shifted toward the door. The stranger turned his head. You are leaving? I have patients. One of them appears to be here. Dr. Pritchard's face darkened. Sir, you presume upon matters you do not understand. The stranger looked toward Evelyn. Did you drink from that cup? No. Was it prepared under the physician's direction? Dr. Pritchard answered before she could. Certainly not, Lady Verity added. My stepdaughter has become distressed by grief. This performance is the result. The stranger studied Evelyn. She met his gaze. His eyes were grey, steady, and too observant for a man who had come merely to inspect accounts. Do you know the date? He asked. Dr. Pritchard gave a satisfied nod, believing the question served him. Evelyn answered, Thursday, the 23rd. My father has been dead 11 weeks. Mr. Harcourt reviewed the London accounts last spring, and £14,000 were transferred from them without proper authority. The physician's satisfaction disappeared. The stranger continued. Who occupies this house? Lady Verity as acting mistress. Mr. Grafton as her guest. The servants under their direction. I remain by permission, though the legal basis for that permission has not yet been established. What did you eat this morning? Bread, 1 egg, no tea. Why no tea? Because there was white sediment in the cup sent to my room last night. The room fell silent. The stranger turned to Dr. Pritchard. Would you certify that answer as confusion? The physician closed his bag. I will not submit to examination by an unknown man. That is sensible, the stranger said. A man should know who judges him. Lady Verity's fingers tightened around the chair. Who are you? He looked at her for a long moment. A representative of someone your husband trusted. That is not a name. No, it is not. Grafton broke from Thomas's grasp. Then you have no authority here. The stranger's gaze moved to the receipt bearing Grafton's signature. Authority is not always the first thing required. Sometimes one begins with evidence. He picked up the receipt. Grafton reached for it. The stranger did not step back. For one brief instant, the two men stood close enough for their difference to become visible. Grafton was younger and richly dressed, yet it was he who seemed to retreat. The stranger read the Whitechapel address. "Who is hidden there?" "No one," Lady Verity said. Mr. Bell replied at the same moment. "Edmund Vale." Verity turned on him. "You old fool." Mr. Bell did not lower his eyes. Edmund Vale had been Sir Cedric's senior clerk. 3 years ago, he was reported drowned while travelling north with copies of the estate accounts. Evelyn remembered the name. Her father had spoken it once at dinner. Verity had dropped a spoon. Sir Cedric had said nothing more. The stranger folded the receipt. "Was a body recovered?" "No," Mr. Bell said. "Was there an inquiry?" "A brief one. Mr. Grafton supplied a witness who claimed to have seen Mr. Vale fall from a bridge." Grafton laughed. "Are we to reopen every accident because a servant enjoys tales?" Mr. Bell's face hardened. "I dressed Sir Cedric for burial. I carried his secrets longer than you carried his respect." No one spoke. The stranger turned to Mr. Harcourt. "Send your clerk to the village. Have him request the attendance of a magistrate. Do not mention the ledger outside this room." Mr. Harcourt bowed again. At once, Lady Verity stepped forward. "You take liberties as though you owned Ravenshade." The stranger replaced his gloves. "No. I take precautions as though someone has tried to steal it." He looked at Evelyn. "May we speak privately?" Lady Verity answered for her. "No." Evelyn stood. "Yes." For the first time in her life, she passed Lady Verity without asking permission. She led the stranger to the winter garden. The glass roof rattled under the rain. Bare vines clung to the trellis, and frost silvered the edges of empty planting beds. It was the one part of Ravenshade where Lady Verity rarely went. She disliked flowers she had not chosen, and paths she could not arrange. The stranger remained near the door. "Your father described you as observant." "My father described many qualities he did not defend." The man accepted the rebuke without protest. "That answer also resembles him." "You knew him well?" "Well enough to know where his courage ended." Evelyn looked through the wet glass. "Are you the Duke of Greyhaven?" The stranger did not answer immediately. No servant moved in the passage. No face appeared beyond the windows. "At last," he said, "Sir Cedric asked that my identity remain concealed until the fraud could be proved before witnesses. That was not my question. No." The word could have been refusal or denial. Evelyn turned toward him. "My father wrote that a man would come in disguise. Then your father trusted you to recognize purpose before appearance. He entrusted oversight of my settlement to the Duke." "Yes, and you represent him." "For now that is sufficient." It was not sufficient, yet Evelyn understood caution. She had hidden a letter in a cloak lining and pretended sleep while a physician discussed drugging her. What happens next? Edmund Vale must be found. The original accounts must be compared with the false ledger Lady Verity intends to produce. Your father's settlement must be located, and until then, you remain in danger. She almost laughed. That fact has been thoroughly established. The stranger's expression softened. "You cannot stay here. If I leave, Verity will say, 'I fled because I was guilty or unstable.' Then do not flee. What would you call it? Preparation." He reached inside his coat and removed a small card bearing the address of a bookkeeper in Bloomsbury. "Mrs. Marianne Holt," he said. "She manages rents for several houses and trains women to keep commercial accounts. Sir Cedric used her office once when his regular clerk was ill. My father trusted a woman with his books, only when he wanted them correct." Despite herself, Evelyn smiled. It vanished quickly. "Lady Verity controls the carriage, the servants, and the gates. Mr. Harcourt will arrange your departure after the magistrate arrives. And if the magistrate believes her—" The stranger looked toward the house. "Then Lady Verity will become bolder. That may be useful." "Useful to whom?" "To the truth." Evelyn studied him. "You speak as though truth cannot be destroyed." "It can. That is why it requires people willing to carry copies." He returned to the breakfast room before she could ask more. The magistrate arrived near noon. He was a tired local man who disliked scandal in great houses because scandal produced paperwork. He examined the ledger, listened to Mr. Harcourt, and questioned Dr. Pritchard. The physician denied prescribing any draught. Grafton denied knowing Edmund Vale. Lady Verity denied every charge with calm precision. Then she produced a blue ledger from the locked library. Its figures showed the Bloomsbury houses burdened by repairs, unpaid rents, and loans. It recorded no missing £14,000. Sir Cedric's signature appeared on several pages. The magistrate compared the two books. "Which is genuine?" he asked. Mr. Harcourt pointed to changes in the ink and paper. "Further examination is required." Lady Verity rested one hand upon the blue cover. "My husband kept this in his desk. Mr. Bell stole the other book." "I preserved it," Mr. Bell said. "You fled with it after being dismissed for theft. I was dismissed because Sir Cedric gave it to me. Can you prove that?" Mr. Bell could not. The magistrate rubbed his forehead. "Without the testimony of Edmund Vale or an original instruction from Sir Cedric, I cannot determine which account is authentic today." Evelyn felt Lady Verity's victory before she saw it. Not complete victory, enough to restore her command of the room. The magistrate ordered both ledgers sealed temporarily in Mr. Harcourt's custody. He requested that Dr. Pritchard remain available for further questioning. He warned Lady Verity against interfering with Evelyn's correspondence. Verity thanked him with perfect grace. After he departed, she stood beneath Sir Cedric's portrait and looked at Evelyn. "You have accused me before servants, neighbours, and an officer of the law. I asked questions. You invited strangers into my husband's affairs. They were his affairs before they were yours." Lady Verity's calm broke. "Leave this house." The servants in the hall stopped moving. Mr. Harcourt stepped forward. "Until Miss Ashcombe's settlement is resolved. She may take her clothes and personal possessions. I will not feed a woman who conspires against me beneath my own roof." Evelyn looked at the eastern passage. The servants' door. Verity noticed. "Yes," she said. "You seem fond of that side of the household. You may use its entrance." Mr. Harcourt objected. Mr. Bell demanded time. Mrs. Finch began to cry. Evelyn silenced them with one raised hand. She would not beg. Not before Verity. Not before Grafton. Not before the servants, who had already risked their livelihoods for her. "When do I leave?" "Before dark." The stranger stood near the window. He did not intervene. For a moment, anger flared within Evelyn. He had spoken of preparation, then watched her lose the only home she had known. But when she looked at him, he touched two fingers to the card hidden in her glove. Bloomsbury. A path, not a rescue. Evelyn went upstairs. She packed one gown, 2-day dresses, her mother's prayer book, the cloak containing Sir Cedric's letter, and the silver hairpins. £11 remained in her purse. Nell carried the smallest case. Mrs. Finch wrapped bread, cheese, and 2 currant buns in a cloth. Thomas brought the larger trunk without being asked. At the servants' entrance, cold rain blew beneath the stone arch. Lady Verity stood above on the main stair, where she could watch without wetting her shoes. Grafton remained beside her. "You will return within a week," Verity said. "Pride becomes less impressive when hungry." Evelyn fastened her cloak. "Then you should pray I never become hungry enough to resemble you." No one laughed. She walked into the rain. Mr. Harcourt's carriage waited beyond the gate. The stranger was gone. 3 days later, Evelyn began work in Bloomsbury. Mrs. Marianne Holt was a widow of 48 with iron-grey hair and an office above a stationer's shop. She asked no unnecessary questions. "Can you add?" was her first. "Yes." "Can you find an error made by a man who insists he never errs?" "Usually." "Can you tolerate being paid less than 1? "Not forever." Mrs. Holt looked at her for a long moment. "You may stay." Evelyn's first duties were small. She copied rental receipts. She checked coal bills. She recorded payments from shopkeepers and widows who rented rooms by the month. Her hands cramped. Her eyes burned beneath the gas lamp. She earned 12 shillings in her first week. The sum would once have seemed insulting. Now it was bread, rent, and proof that Lady Verity had not removed her value by closing a door. For the first time in her life, Evelyn received money for work no one could call an indulgence. Mrs. Holt taught her commercial shorthand, rental law at the safest practical level, and the habits of dishonest men. A false account is rarely false everywhere, she said. A liar preserves enough truth to make the theft difficult to see. They compared copies Mr. Harcourt had made before the ledgers were sealed. The blue ledger contained ordinary expenses, copied accurately from earlier years. The fraud hid between them. Roof repairs appeared twice. Tenant arrears were exaggerated. Payments supposedly made to builders went to firms that had ceased trading. The missing money moved in portions, not one sum. £14,000 was only the largest transfer. By the end of 6 weeks, Evelyn had traced nearly £21,000 away from Ravenshade and the Bloomsbury rents. But numbers alone could still be dismissed. They needed Edmund Vale. The stranger visited Mrs. Holt's office twice. He gave no name. The first time he brought a list of lodging houses near the Whitechapel address. The second, he brought news that Edmund had been moved. Lady Verity's men are searching too, he said. Why keep him alive? Evelyn asked. Because he signed documents under coercion. His death would invite inquiry. His silence can be purchased and explained. Can his courage? That remains to be seen. Evelyn watched him remove rain from his gloves. You still have not answered my question. Which one? Whether you are the Duke. He looked almost amused. Would my answer alter your work? No. Then let the work answer first. She disliked the reply. She respected it more than she wished. In the 7th week, Bess came to the office. The maid had cut her hair and wore a washerwoman's coarse dress. She entered trembling, with Mr. Bell beside her. Evelyn rose at once. You saved me. Bess shook her head. I only dropped a cup. You knew what was in it. I heard Mr. Grafton tell Thomas it would make you wander. Thomas did not want to do it, miss. He said no at first. Why did he agree? His mother lives in a cottage belonging to the estate. Evelyn understood. Power did not require loyalty when it possessed rent, wages, and roofs. Bess opened her hand. A small key lay in her palm. I took it from Mr. Grafton's coat before they sent me away. What does it open? A cabinet in the locked library, the one behind the red curtain. Mr. Bell looked sharply at her. Sir Cedric kept private letters there. Lady Verity searched it after his death, Bess said. But there is a false bottom. I saw Mr. Grafton lift it once. Evelyn closed her fingers around the key. The settlement might still be inside Ravenshade. The stranger arrived before dusk. When he saw the key, his expression changed. We can use this. We? He placed an invitation upon Mrs. Holt's desk. Lady Verity would host a winter ball at Ravenshade in 3 weeks. The guests included an earl, 2 members of Parliament, the county magistrate, and nearly every family that had witnessed Evelyn's humiliation after Sir Cedric's death. Why invite so many people while the estate is under question? Evelyn asked. Mrs. Holt answered, Because grandeur is cheaper than innocence when one only needs it for an evening. The stranger tapped the invitation. Lady Verity intends to announce the engagement of Mr. Grafton to Miss Arabella Dalrymple. Her dowry will cover the most urgent missing funds. Evelyn looked at the guest list. And the remaining fraud? Hidden beneath celebration, the ball would place the entire county beneath one roof. The same crowd that had accepted Verity's whispers, the same servants who knew pieces of the truth, the same locked library. Evelyn understood. You want her to believe she has won? Yes. How do I enter? You will be invited. Lady Verity would rather burn Ravenshade. Not if she believes inviting you proves generosity. 2 days later, the card arrived. Lady Verity requested Miss Evelyn Ashcombe's presence at Ravenshade for the winter ball, so that recent family misunderstandings might be laid to rest before friends. Mrs. Holt read it twice, a weapon disguised as courtesy. Evelyn placed it beside the account books. Then we must let her believe it struck its mark. The plan took shape. Mr. Bell would return among the hired servants needed for the ball. Bess would enter with the laundry women. Nell remained inside Ravenshade and would leave the eastern corridor unlatched. Mr. Harcourt would bring sealed copies of the accounts. The stranger would locate Edmund Vale. Evelyn would enter the library and use Bess's key. Nothing depended upon luck. Every person carried one part. Every paper had a copy. Every accusation would wait until witnesses were present. The night before the ball, the plan appeared to fail. Mr. Harcourt arrived at Mrs. Holt's office with blood on his collar. His carriage had been forced from the road. The sealed account copies were gone. Mr. Bell came an hour later. Bess had disappeared from her lodging. Then the stranger sent word that Edmund Vale had been moved again and could not be found. Evelyn stood among the scattered figures, the invitation still open on the desk. For one moment, she believed Verity had taken everything: the witness, the copies, the servant who knew the hidden cabinet. Mrs. Holt waited. Mr. Harcourt pressed a cloth to his temple. "We can postpone," he said. "No," Evelyn replied. "Without the accounts, I know the accounts. Memory is not evidence." "No, but it can lead us to it." She picked up the small key. The settlement remained inside Ravenshade. Perhaps Sir Cedric's original instructions did too. For the first time in her life, Evelyn chose to walk knowingly toward the place where others intended to break her. The following evening, Ravenshade blazed with candlelight. Carriages crowded the drive. Music poured through the windows. Silk, pearls, velvet, and polished shoes crossed the marble hall while servants carried silver trays beneath the chandeliers. Evelyn entered through the main doors. Conversation weakened around her. Lady Verity descended to greet her. "How brave of you to come. How generous of you to ask me." They kissed the air beside each other's cheeks. Grafton watched from the ballroom. Miss Arabella stood beside him, smiling without warmth. Evelyn saw no sign of Mr. Bell, Bess, or the stranger. The first dance began. Nell passed near the wall and gave the smallest shake of her head. The eastern corridor was guarded. The library key had been changed. Evelyn's last path to the evidence had closed. Then a disturbance rose near the ballroom doors. A tray struck the floor. Crystal shattered. Guests turned. A beggar knelt beside the silver, wrapped in a torn brown coat. Laughter began near the card tables. Lady Verity's face filled with disgust. "Get that filthy creature away from the silver before he stains it." Thomas seized the man's shoulder. Evelyn looked at the bowed head, the grey-streaked beard, and the split sleeve. She knew the voice before he spoke. "You should not have done that," he would tell her. Behind the disguise, his eyes lifted once toward the locked library, then toward the ballroom crowd. The trap had not failed. It had just entered through the servant's door. Da Vit Quang 2, 878, 0, 12, 2. Thomas loosened his grip, not because Lady Verity had withdrawn the order, because the beggar had straightened. The stoop vanished beneath the torn coat. His trembling hand became still. Then he rose to his full height, and the laughter near the card tables weakened as though someone had shut a distant door. Evelyn remained beside him. Lady Verity descended one step. "Have them removed." The beggar looked at Thomas. "You may take your hand away now." Thomas obeyed. The room noticed. The musicians had stopped playing. No one instructed them to begin again. Lady Verity's face hardened. "Who are you to command my servants?" The man reached beneath the torn coat and removed a pair of dark gloves. They were finely made, though stained with rain and soot. He pulled them on slowly. Then he turned toward the entrance. "Open the doors." A footman looked at Lady Verity. The beggar did not raise his voice. "Open them." The footman obeyed. Cold air entered the ballroom. So did 4 men in dark coats. Mr. Harcourt followed, a bandage still visible near his temple. Beside him walked the county magistrate. Mr. Bell came next in a black coat, restored to its old dignity. Between them stood a thin man with sunken cheeks, and one arm held stiffly against his body. Evelyn knew him before anyone spoke his name. Edmund Vale. A murmur crossed the room. Lady Verity gripped the banister. Grafton moved toward the western passage. 2 of the dark-coated men closed it. He stopped. The beggar looked across the ballroom. "You laughed when this woman defended a stranger." No one answered. Several guests lowered their eyes. Others watched with the frightened attention of people who suspected they had mistaken the direction of power. He removed the grey-streaked beard. Women gasped. Beneath it was a lean, severe face, marked by a pale scar along the jaw. His dark hair was touched with silver at the temples. Mr. Harcourt bowed. "Your Grace." The room fell silent. Lady Verity's lips parted. The Duke of Greyhaven removed the torn coat. Beneath it he wore a plain black evening coat, perfectly cut and without ornament. "You asked who I was," he said. "I am Nathaniel Greyhaven." A baronet near the musicians dropped his glass. It struck the carpet without breaking. The Duke continued. "Sir Cedric Ashcombe placed the oversight of his daughter's settlement in my hands. He also wrote to me regarding irregularities in the estate accounts. By the time his letter reached me, Edmund Vale had disappeared, Sir Cedric was dead, and Lady Verity had assumed control of Ravenshade. Lady Verity recovered first. This is an outrageous performance." "No," Greyhaven said. "The performance was yours." He faced the guests. "You invited these witnesses to watch Evelyn Ashcombe's humiliation. You taught them to believe she was unstable. It seemed appropriate that they should witness the truth." Every face turned toward Evelyn. Months earlier, those same eyes had measured the age of her gown and the weakness of her position. Now they waited. She did not speak. Not yet. Mr. Harcourt carried a leather case to the center of the room. Lady Verity descended from the stair. Whatever Sir Cedric wrote, he was fevered and confused. "This house remains under my lawful administration." The magistrate raised one hand. "That will be determined through proper examination. You cannot conduct an inquiry in a ballroom." Greyhaven looked toward the crowd. "Lady Verity has spent months conducting a verdict in drawing rooms. Tonight, evidence may use the same privilege." Several guests flushed. Mrs. Dalrymple moved away from Verity. Grafton saw it. His confidence began to fail. Mr. Harcourt opened the case. He removed the false blue ledger first, then the green ledger. A murmur followed. Lady Verity laughed once. "You have shown those books before. They contradict one another." "They did," Mr. Harcourt said. He placed a third bundle on the table, but Sir Cedric kept quarterly copies with his London bankers. Grafton's face changed. Evelyn looked at the bandage on Mr. Harcourt's temple. The copies had been stolen from his carriage. He understood her confusion. "The stolen packet contained drafts," he said. Mrs. Holt retained the certified copies. Lady Verity turned to Evelyn. "You arranged this." Evelyn met her eyes. "I learned from you not to keep truth in one room." A faint movement passed through the crowd. Not applause. Respect. Mr. Harcourt compared the records. The green ledger matched the certified accounts. The blue ledger did not. He showed duplicate roof repairs, exaggerated arrears, and payments made to firms that had ceased trading. Money from the Bloomsbury rents had passed through false expenses and private accounts. Then he placed the Whitechapel receipts beside the ledgers. "These bear Mr. Grafton's signature." Grafton stepped forward. "I signed at Sir Cedric's request." Edmund Vale spoke. "No." His voice was weak, but it carried. Everyone turned. He stood beneath the chandelier in a coat too large for his narrow shoulders. One side of his face bore a yellowed scar. His hands trembled with the effort of remaining upright. The Duke moved a chair toward him. Edmund refused it. "I will stand." The ballroom became still. Greyhaven inclined his head. "Then stand, Mr. Vale." Edmund looked at Grafton. "You ordered me to alter the ledgers. That is a lie. You showed me instructions signed by Lady Verity. You said Sir Cedric had become incapable, and the accounts must be arranged before his daughter discovered the missing rents." Lady Verity cut across him. "A dismissed clerk will say anything for protection." Edmund looked at her. "You did not dismiss me. You imprisoned me." The crowd stirred. Lady Verity's face became rigid. Absurd. Edmund unbuttoned his cuff. A pale band of old scar tissue circled his wrist. "For 8 months, I was kept in a warehouse room near the river. When I refused to sign, they bound my hands behind a chair. Later, I was moved to Whitechapel and described as a madman." Dr. Pritchard stepped back. Edmund saw him. "That is the physician who signed the papers." Every face turned. Dr. Pritchard shook his head. "I have never seen this man." Edmund removed a folded document from his coat. "Then perhaps you do not recognize your own signature." The magistrate took it. Dr. Pritchard moved toward the door. One of the dark-coated men blocked him. Greyhaven's voice remained calm. "You were warned that a man should know who judges him." Dr. Pritchard said nothing. Lady Verity turned on Grafton. "You said every paper had been destroyed." The words escaped before she could stop them. The whole room heard. No one moved. Grafton stared at her. "You fool." Lady Verity struck him. The sound cracked through the ballroom. Greyhaven watched without expression. "There it is," he said. "Not accusation, admission." Lady Verity faced the guests. "You misunderstand." Mrs. Dalrymple spoke first. "Do we?" Her voice shook, but she remained where she stood. "You told us Evelyn wandered at night. You told us she imagined stolen letters. You said grief had disordered her." Lady Verity gathered herself. "I believed it." Mrs. Dalrymple glanced toward the smaller rug, covering the place where the drugged tea had stained the carpet. "Did you believe the powder harmless too?" The room fell silent again. The opening of the trap did not come from a duke. It came from a woman who had helped sharpen the weapon. Evelyn saw shame in Mrs. Dalrymple's face. It did not erase what she had done, but it made the next truth possible. Nell entered through the eastern passage. She wore a clean servant's dress and held Bess by the hand. Bess looked terrified. Lady Verity saw them. "No servant will speak in this room." Greyhaven turned toward her. "A servant already has." Bess stepped forward, not because fear had left her, because Nell stayed beside her. "Mr. Grafton gave Thomas a packet," she said. "Thomas gave it to me. He said it was for Miss Evelyn's tea." Thomas closed his eyes. The magistrate looked at him. "Is that true?" The head footman's face greyed. "My mother lived in an estate cottage. That was not the question." Thomas opened his eyes. "Yes." A murmur spread through the guests. Lady Verity stared at him. "After all I did for your family." Thomas looked at Evelyn. "You threatened to turn my mother out before Christmas." Lady Verity's mouth tightened. "And yet you served the tea." "No," Bess said. Everyone looked at her. She stood straighter. "I spilled it." The smallest sound came from the servants near the doors. Not laughter, a breath of pride. The magistrate questioned Bess. She described the packet, the white powder, and Grafton's instructions. Nell gave her account next. Mrs. Finch confirmed that Bess had been dismissed without wages. Mr. Bell confirmed Sir Cedric's private instructions. Each voice came from farther down the household ladder. Each carried the truth upward. Grafton wiped sweat from his temple. "You cannot prove the powder came from me." Mr. Harcourt opened the case again. "This was recovered from Dr. Pritchard's rooms this afternoon." He held up a folded page. The physician's face collapsed. It contained instructions for doses, not enough to kill, enough to confuse, enough to make a woman appear forgetful, agitated, and unreliable. Evelyn read the first line. She recognized Grafton's hand from the receipts. He saw that she did. "Forgery," he said. Edmund Vale laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "You always preferred that defense." Grafton lunged toward him. Thomas caught him. This time, the dark-coated men took his arms. The magistrate stepped forward. "Mr. Grafton, you will remain under guard until these matters are fully examined. You cannot arrest me on servants' gossip." "Not on gossip," Mr. Harcourt said. He lifted the receipts. "On records, testimony, threats, and conduct." Grafton looked toward Lady Verity. "Help me." She stepped away. The movement was small. It ended him. His fear became fury. "You arranged all of it," Lady Verity whispered. "Be quiet. You wanted Ravenshade. You wanted the London rents. You said Cedric would leave everything tied to the girl unless we made the estate appear insolvent. Be quiet. You said once Evelyn was certified, no one would trust her figures." Lady Verity struck him again. This time, he laughed. It was the laugh of a man who knew he was falling and wished to drag someone with him. "You told me Edmund should have drowned properly." The room recoiled. Lady Verity stood beneath the chandelier, breathing hard. Around her were silk gowns, pearls, velvet, white gloves, and faces that had once welcomed her everywhere. Now those faces turned away, one by one. The Countess near the fireplace stepped back. The baronet who had mocked Evelyn lowered his head. Miss Arabella Dalrymple removed Grafton's ring and placed it on a silver tray. The sound was very small. Everyone heard it. "Our engagement is ended," she said. Grafton stared at her. "You cannot, I just have." Mrs. Dalrymple led her daughter away. Lady Verity looked around the ballroom. "You are all hypocrites." No one answered. "You ate at my table. You accepted my invitations. You repeated every word I told you. That was true. Their silence became uglier because of it. Evelyn stepped forward. Lady Verity looked at her. There was no triumph in Evelyn's face, only exhaustion. Greyhaven nodded to Mr. Harcourt. The solicitor opened one final envelope. Sir Cedric's original settlement had been found behind the false bottom of the library cabinet. Bess's key had opened the outer lock. Nell had led Mr. Bell through the eastern corridor while the guests entered the ballroom. The document placed the Bloomsbury houses and their income in trust for Evelyn. It also guaranteed her residence at Ravenshade for life. There was more. If fraud by the acting administrator were proved, control of the estate would pass temporarily to independent trustees. Lady Verity listened without blinking. Mr. Harcourt finished. You no longer control Ravenshade's accounts, rents, staff, or correspondence. Those words emptied her. Her authority had never been merely a voice, a gown, or a place on the stair. It had been keys, money, doors. All three were gone. The magistrate instructed her not to leave the county while the inquiry continued. Grafton and Dr. Pritchard were taken under guard. Edmund Vale would give a formal statement with Mr. Harcourt present. No chains were displayed. No one shouted. The punishment began before Lady Verity left the ballroom. A footman removed the household keys from her belt. Thomas accepted them only long enough to place them in Mr. Harcourt's hand. Lady Verity watched. For the first time in her life, she stood inside Ravenshade with no servant waiting for her command. The guests departed early. Carriage after carriage rolled from the drive. No one asked Lady Verity to call. No one promised to write. The women who had praised her winter ball passed without taking her hand. The doors that had once opened for her would close quietly now. That was how society punished its own, not with noise, with absence. Greyhaven remained beside the eastern doors. Evelyn approached him. You knew she would order us out together. I suspected she would repeat herself when angry. You allowed them to mock you. I needed the room to show its character before I showed mine. She looked toward the departing guests. And what did you learn? That rank does not improve character. It only enlarges its audience. Evelyn glanced at the torn coat. Did my father truly ask you to come disguised? He asked me to judge those around you without the protection of my title. And me? Especially you. Anger stirred within her. So I was tested. Greyhaven did not deny it. Yes, that was cruel. Yes. His answer stopped her. He looked toward the shattered glasses. I have spent years watching people become generous when they knew my name. Sir Cedric feared that anyone who offered you help might only be courting the estate. My father feared many things after they had become his fault. The Duke accepted the words. He should have defended you while he lived. Yes, he did not. No, the ballroom had nearly emptied. Servants cleared abandoned glasses. One musician closed his violin case. Lady Verity stood alone near the stair. She looked smaller without the crowd. Evelyn crossed to her. No one followed. Verity's eyes were dry. You have everything now. No, do not pretend humility. I have the right to decide what happens next. That is not everything. It is what should never have been taken. Lady Verity's mouth trembled. I was expected to give Cedric a son. Evelyn said nothing. When I failed, every portrait and every letter reminded me. Your existence proved he had a child and still believed himself without an heir. That was not my cruelty. No. Verity lowered her eyes. But it became convenient to make it yours. For one moment, Evelyn saw the woman beneath the velvet, pearls, and command. Not innocent. Not a monster without reason. A woman humiliated by a cruel structure who had chosen to survive by crushing someone with less power. Understanding did not become forgiveness. Lady Verity swallowed. I am sorry. The words came late. Too late for Bess's dismissal. Too late for Edmund's stolen years. Too late for the nights Evelyn had slept beside poisoned tea. Verity continued. I did not intend for Grafton to hold Vale so long. I did not know the physician would do not divide your guilt into smaller pieces, Evelyn said. Lady Verity closed her eyes. Will you forgive me? The last guests paused near the doors. Even now, the question sought an audience. Evelyn looked at her stepmother. I will not build my life around hating you. Hope rose briefly in Verity's face, but I do not forgive you tonight. The hope vanished. You will answer for what you did. You will return what was taken, and you will live without my silence protecting your name. Evelyn turned away. Lady Verity did not call after her. Before dawn, Evelyn walked into the garden. Frost silvered the path. Bare branches trembled above the frozen fountain. The cold bit through her gloves, but no locked door stood behind her now. Greyhaven found her there. The garden was the only place in Ravenshade that seemed free of rank. He remained at a respectful distance. Mr. Harcourt says the Bloomsbury income will be restored immediately. Evelyn watched pale light gather above the hedges. I will not return to being merely the daughter of Ravenshade. What will you do? Mrs. Holt has offered me a partnership. You intend to accept. I intend to earn it. And the estate? Independent management, fair leases. No family dismissed because one person fears the truth they carry. He nodded. Edmund has asked for work once he recovers. He will have it if he wishes. Bess? A place with Mrs. Holt, if she wants one. Nell may remain here and learn accounts instead of carrying trays too large for her. Greyhaven looked at Evelyn. You have already begun. For the first time in her life, she did not mistake praise for permission. Why did you stay hidden from me? She asked. Because I wanted you to choose what was right when you believed I could offer nothing. I did not stop them because of you. I know. Would you have revealed yourself if I had remained silent? His expression became grave. Yes, but I would have known Ravenshade had taught you to protect comfort before dignity. Evelyn considered that. And now I know it failed. The frost brightened along the path. He did not speak of marriage. He did not offer rescue. He asked whether she would allow him to call upon her in London after the inquiry ended. His restraint mattered. So did the fact that he had stood beside servants before standing above nobles. You may call, she said. As the Duke? Evelyn looked at him. As the man who broke 3 glasses. He laughed. It was the first warm sound of the morning. 8 months later, Ravenshade opened its eastern doors again. Not for a ball. For tenants reviewing new leases, village women seeking bookkeeping work, and servants wishing to raise concerns without passing through layers of rank. Mrs. Holt occupied the former morning room twice each month. Edmund Vale managed the estate records with a clerk of his own choosing. Bess learned shorthand. Nell learned to add columns faster than Thomas, which she mentioned whenever his dignity required correction. Lady Verity lived in a small house near the coast, while the legal claims continued. Invitations no longer arrived. Much of the stolen money was recovered from property held through Grafton's intermediaries. What could not be recovered became debt attached to his name rather than Evelyn's inheritance. Dr. Pritchard lost the confidence of the families who had once received him without question. Grafton discovered that fashionable rooms had narrow doors when credit and reputation failed together. Evelyn divided her weeks between Bloomsbury and Ravenshade. She kept her mother's altered gown, not as a relic of humiliation, as a measure of distance travelled. One rainy evening, she sat in the kitchen while Mrs. Finch cut a currant bun in half and complained that dukes consumed jam as though preserves were exempt from estate accounts. Greyhaven, seated at the servants' table by Evelyn's invitation, put the spoon back in the jar. Nell counted the spoonfuls anyway. The fire warmed the copper pots. Rain touched the windows. Evelyn looked around at faces once trained to fall silent when rank entered the room. No one stopped speaking. Justice had not restored the past. It had made the future belong to those willing to defend it. Kindness often recognized true nobility before society did. If Evelyn's courage moved you, please like this story, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your support helps us share more stories where dignity survives cruelty and truth finally receives its rightful voice.